Hey guys, Colin Gwynn here, and we've got a super special guest that I wanted to bring on today to talk about some really amazing work that's being done around this pandemic. A good friend of mine, Tarun Nimagata, who we've known each other for a long time. Tarun has been the founder and CEO of Mutual Mobile, one of the foremost app development companies in the country, developing these crazy complex banking and university apps and things like that. And I wanted you to come on and talk today because what I've been seeing happen throughout this pandemic is obviously all these negative effects that I feel like a lot of people are focusing on. The media is focusing on all the downsides and all the negative effects of this pandemic that's affecting our works and our homes and our health and our lives. But at the same time, something that I've been noticing is how everyone is like pulling out all the stops, bringing all their talents, all their creativity to finding ways for our species to be able to help fight this infectious virus. And I think you've done an amazing job of that. I've been watching you do it since February. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about ReturnSafe, your background, how you guys are using all these available technologies to try and help us get ahead of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to innovate our way out of this.
That's right.
Out of this crisis, right?
Yeah.
So for me, where it started was my sister just got married in December, and she'd moved to Singapore. Mm-hmm. And this January, February, obviously coronavirus started to hit these Asian countries, well before it came to America. And I was calling her and checking up on her, and started to realize what was going on, which is that Singapore was going to be okay. My sister mm-hmm. was going to be fine because Singapore had a lot of experience dealing with SARS and MERS, and they had so many procedures and protocol, and they were able to react so swiftly and decisively to deal with this issue with the combination of screening, testing, and tracing the population rapidly and at scale.
And partly because they dealt with SARS and MERS and these other infections that didn't necessarily affect us as much, so they were ready.
They were ready, yeah.
Yeah.
And we weren't, and we had to get ready, right? Mm-hmm. And so February and March, I was thinking, well, how do we get ready, because this is gonna happen, and then things kick into high gear mm-hmm. the minute March happens, and it's clear, okay, the virus is here, and we're not stopping it. And so then in my mind, it became wartime starting March, where we didn't have a formal declaration of war, but we were at war. And what happens at war is you have to ask yourself, how can you be of service, to the country, and how can we use each of us, our special skills and talents, to apply to this crisis? And for me, to put it simply, I'm the app guy. I've built hundreds and hundreds of apps, and I'm like, there's probably a way to use mobile technology and these computers to address this crisis. And then when I looked at what is the nature of the problem and how do you solve it, well, if you look at all these previous outbreaks that we've had, Zika, H1N1, H5N1, SARS, MERS, while we have had vaccines for several of these, they came a little too little too late, or the virus had mutated in that time, and the vaccine had never been the silver bullet that that we hoped. On the other hand, screening, testing, and tracing was all it took to stop SARS and MERS. So to me, that was a big surprise. I'm not an infectious disease guy, but it was kind of obvious that we're going to have to figure out how to do screen, test, and trace at massive scale, instantaneously. But in America, we have to do it in a slightly different way, because privacy and civil liberties are so important here that even in the midst of a crisis, we're not going to be willing to just let the government have all of this personal information about us, because our trust in our institutions, big tech companies, and government was also deteriorating during this time. And that's why I felt the need to create ReturnSafe as a privacy-focused alternative where we can do screen, test, and trace in the context of a school or a nursing home or a manufacturing facility, so we can create those safe bubbles around our communities and reopen our economy more quickly.
Yep. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I saw kind of how you were doing that from the beginning, and I just find it super interesting how you're leveraging, hey, what's available right now that everyone has in their pocket to be able to screen, test, and trace as quickly as humanly possible, because we're fighting this virus that can stay hidden inside of a host for days or over a week at a time. And so that amount of time that it takes us to react and notify everyone and get those that were in contact with that person tested becomes exponentially more important, right? And so that's something that I find really interesting. It's like you weren't trying to you knew that there wasn't time to go invent some all new solution, all new hardware, whatever. It's like, how do you build a biosecurity platform that leverages what you have access to right now, but leaves itself open for integrations, leaves itself open for other hardware or software that can be plugged in as this thing grows and as we become more innovative and more, solutions are being developed by other companies.
Absolutely.
But it's that platform piece. And then the other thing that I really noticed is we harp a ton on workflow and how quickly, we talk about that with autonomous robotics. How quickly can you get the drone's data into the application that the farmer is already using so that they can make decisions around it? And so I think you guys face the same thing, is like, how quickly can this be rolled out and integrated, single sign-ons and human resource management system tie-ins? So tell us a little bit about how did I guess you knew that from the beginning, and it feels like you've built it to be that extensible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think two things was, one, I knew right away that it's going to take a village to solve this problem. No one company, not ReturnSafe, no one can solve this crisis on their own. So, and then also that this technology cannot live on an island either, where it's disconnected from all of the other systems that the company has. So part of the attributes that I thought of what a successful technology solution really looks like here is one that connects into the HR systems, it connects into the single sign-on systems, it connects into the building access management systems, and so we can be a turnkey deployment for these companies. And then it's an open platform in that today we're using Bluetooth on the phone, but obviously we already added hardware support for these Bluetooth beacons. I think the future is going to have some ultra wideband technology in the future, but as the technology matures, we can have all of these hardware solutions sort of plug into that platform, and it as the situation continues to evolve.
And so then the platform just becomes more and more effective, so that if this doesn't end up being a 3 to 6 month thing, and instead it's a 3-year thing, then this solution can just get better and better and better with everybody's help and with all these different technologies that are being developed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's, coronavirus itself is going to be with us for a long time, but I don't think this problem has helped a lot of communities wake up to the realization that maybe actually the flu and our response to the flu is not acceptable anymore.
And could be more effective.
And it could be way more effective if we're able to figure out how to make sure that people that are sick aren't coming into places and communities like schools and workplaces and getting other people sick.
I think that makes perfect sense. So obviously you guys are trying to make it as quick as possible to roll out. At the same time, you kind of have a bit of a flood on your hands with all these different businesses and schools that need this technology, and they need it now. And so how are you guys balancing trying to take this to market? I know you're kind of making these customizations per use case, because obviously the way a school needs to consume this technology versus a way a manufacturing facility is slightly different. So how are you guys prioritizing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first prioritization is who needs to open now versus who can wait, right? And obviously tech companies, a lot of them can wait, but schools, nursing homes, and manufacturing facilities, they cannot wait. So we're prioritizing those markets. Actually, a K through 12 school is different than a university, where the students may have phones here, but children in K through 12, they don't all carry smartphones. So we have to have a hardware beacon-based approach for kids. And it's okay to have a phone-based solution, for older students.
If you know anyone in the school systems that are looking for a solution like this, how do they find you?
Our website is ReturnSafe.com. You can just go on there, book a demo, and we'll have one of our product experts speak to you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Tarun, thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you for everything you're doing.